Bienvenidos to Season 3 of Humans in Accounting podcast. In a world full of AI, automation, and endless workflows, we pause for a moment to focus on the real humans behind the numbers. Founders, leaders, humans share their journey, what drives them, and the moments that shape their path. Because behind every balance sheet, there's always a story worth telling. Humans in Accounting is brought to you by South Offices. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Humans in Accounting, where humans share their story behind their spreadsheets. I'm Alex Roman. I'm your host, and this podcast is brought to you by this guy's South Offices. They connect talent across borders. I'm going to use this one. And today I'm happy just to be chatting with Miguel. Miguel, I'm super happy just to have you here. Miguel is the managing partner at Centurion Firm, host at Beyond the Bottom Line, a dad, and a great human. Miguel, welcome to Humans in Accounting. How are you?
Well, thanks for having me on, Alex.
I'm happy that I'm having you on. I'm doing, we are actually recording this on our National Independence Day. Today is the 9th of July. The truth is that I've been wearing my jersey all the World Cup. And this episode, we're going to be uploading it next Wednesday. As everyone knows by now, Argentina now is in the quarterfinals. We're going to be playing with Switzerland and Saturday. So maybe this episode, we're going to be posting it. I'm going to still have my jersey, and maybe we are not even in the World Cup. Anyways, I'm still going to be supporting, or if not, maybe we're going to win against Switzerland. I think then semifinals is that very same Wednesday. I don't know. I'm still going to have my jersey. Yes, Miel. I'm happy that we're doing this together. The truth is that we've known for a few years, actually, like 2 years and a half. I think the first time we met here in Argentina, having a nice dinner in Puerto Madero with Nicholas and Michael, a few years ago. And now, a couple of years later, you're here in Humans in Accounting. I want to just let's start. I want to ask you a little bit about your background. I know you had such experience. You started working in big firms. I want to know how was your background and how you ended up founding Centurion Firm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in college, I would say I was a dedicated student, almost like a monk, just studying, barely sleeping, working really hard. And I remember asking my professor, "Hey, where can I make the most amount of money when I graduate?" And it wasn't accounting. They told me, investment banking, but it's really hard to get in. They don't really recruit from the school. But, a few months later, I found myself in New York City doing a internship in finance in New York City. And I was there for just 3 short months as a summer intern. It was enough to say, I don't want to work this much. Like 90 hours a week is crazy. Where can I work 60 hours a week? 60 hours a week I can do. And that brought me into Big Four on the tax side, actually. So I'll never forget, I got a call once from a recruiter at PwC. They're like, "Hey, you might be happy where you're at. And I interrupted. I was like, "Can you just get me back West Coast?" And he's like, "Yeah." So my first job out of college was in the LA office downtown at PwC.
Okay, perfect. And that's how you started your career at PwC, and then how do you transition? You worked there for how many years? And I want to know like the point where you said, "Hey, I think this is it. I want to just start something that it's my own." Do you remember that? How was that moment? Was there an inflection point or something that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone knows who's done public accounting that it's still a grind.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I had 2 kids, and it was tough balancing, working really hard. I think you have to in your younger years just to learn and absorb. So at some point, that trade-off between family and how much money I made and the work, it kind of came to a head, and I remember one year I was there for 6 years. I made manager the year before, which is a big milestone. Making senior associate is a big milestone in any firm, and then making manager was another level. But I remember, like, I helped I was always good with clients, and I think part of it was because I had kids. So, like, I knew kind of what my VP of tax or the CFO was going through because they also had, 5 or whatever it is, and I remember I helped, like, grow an engagement to, like, a big number, I don't know, like, in the millions, and I remember asking my partner, like, "Hey, like, I helped grow the scope, like, what do I get? Like, what do I get, like, a little commission? Do I get, like, a bonus?" And he's like, "Well, we'll give you, like, an 8% raise next year." And I was like, "You know what? I'm done. I think I'm gonna do this for, like, small businesses, and I think I can make money. I don't care. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna get freedom over my schedule." And that was, I think, the inspiration that made me, jump, if you will, because it is a jump and it is cold water once you get in, so there's no coming back out. But yeah, I made the leap in formally in tax season of 2017. So we're coming up on a 10-year anniversary next year.
Incredible, incredible. So it was actually that answer that that your partner gave you, that it was an 8% raise for next year. Maybe if you would have said there is this commission, maybe you would have never started your firm. It was that. I mean, you saw it like, all right, this is what I'm getting just to for all my work. This is something that I don't want. I want to start something that it's your own. And you remember how was that process? Like you said, I mean, you quit and you started without having any clients. You started with a few clients. I'm interested always in knowing that, the first few clients that you got by yourself.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of clients. I remember taking a sabbatical and, it wasn't a sabbatical. It was just like a 1-month leave for me to, I think they call it product market fit these days. I called it just see if people will pay me. And
Right.
it had started before because, you'd be at like a happy hour, a cocktail party, and people would ask what you did. And I was like, oh, I do tax for very big companies. And people would start saying, wait, like I have a startup or like my buddy has a startup. And even now today, you hear all the time, like, I just do not like my current tax provider, or like I don't feel that small business tax gets strategy. Like you work at a big firm, can you do it for me? And I started saying yes to some of those deals. And I probably had like, maybe 2 clients to start. I remember who they were, business owners, entrepreneurs, they went a different route. I remember I had a good buddy of mine that would check in on me and I'd be working at 11, like after the kids went down. He's like, man, he's like, I know how much you make. I make way more money than you and I work way less than you. He's like, you would absolutely crush it if you went on your own. So I had a little bit of confidence. He ended up being my first client. Name's John Mai. He's no longer with us. Beautiful human being, entrepreneurial, Vietnamese, the child of immigrants as well. And he really had this belief that, like, look, if you do something you're passionate about, people will come to you. And I think, I experienced it. I still had a lot to figure out looking back. I mean, I didn't figure out like how to make contracts recurring or how to price things right and how to staff engagements. Like, should I be doing everything from data entry to talking with the client, but I think I had enough of a belief, getting a few yeses, getting a few clients that within that first tax season, I mean, we had, I want to say like we like got like, will you do our tax return? Like we got like 50 of those. And I built a team. Actually, one of the people that I recruited from this professional organization called Alpha, still a member of it. I'm a big fan of Alpha. They're basically accounting professionals who are Latinos. I did
Hmm.
a talk like, "Hey, I'm leaving PwC. I'll train you on tax. Who wants to join?" And I had like 5 students join me from Cal State LA,
Oh,
hungry, a lot of them went on to other firms. One of them actually stayed, and she's a, like, a senior manager here at our firm still. So it's a testament, I think, that seeing how she grew and seeing that she had belief in the same thing I had belief in, that we were able to do it together and that we've been able to always raise the level of what we provide our clients since day one. We're still figuring out how to improve, today. But that journey started tax season one or tax season zero,
Right.
2017. And it was good enough that, it was good enough that I was like, all right, I can pay bills. And, I can't exactly get a really nice steak dinner like the one we had in Argentina,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I know that that's somewhere in the cards for the future.
Let me ask you then. It's nice. I didn't know this story, and let me ask. In those first years, starting your own firm, maybe not necessarily in the first firms in the first years, but what's the first milestone that you can think of, and also what's a we never talk enough about like mistakes, like a big mistake that you made early on or not early on, maybe last week. That's a mistake where you learned something. What are the first two things that comes to your mind? Milestone and mistake.
Yeah, yeah, those are two very good questions. I'll answer them separately. I'll answer the first one, and my first goal was just to replace my salary on a
Okay.
and again, like I wasn't thinking about it right because I was just trying to replace it on a gross basis, like
Right.
not even the net to me, but and I didn't make it that year. That year I lived off of like, my bonus from my previous firm.
Hmm.
And then the mistakes, the reason why is, I said yes to everybody. I said yes to small businesses that were okay paying 2,000 for a tax return. I said yes to Uber drivers that would pay 250 for a tax return. And I didn't manage that mix, and that I think is hard for anybody that gets started because as an accountant, we are, we're a service business. We give to people our energy, and I think the best accountants want to give. I think in my experience, the people we want to hire are the people that want to share that energy and are excited about it. And the risk of doing that without constraint is that you burn out and
Exactly.
you spend your energy on engagements that $250 a year Uber driver could be as happy doing it themselves on TurboTax paying a little less, So there's only so much value you can create for different customers, and the hard part is finding the client that you are uniquely positioned to add the most amount of value for. And the only I tell this to our team all the time, the only time you have an issue with price in a sale is in the absence of value. The value is clear, price is, like, so far down on the list, but the answer that what they're thinking about is, "How can I afford this?" When you serve entrepreneurs, that's how they answer questions about cost. "How can I afford this?" Not, "Can I afford it?" So that, that perfect kind of mix between finding the right client and being able to provide the right amount of value, something that took a lot of years to figure out.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So going back to the milestone, you said it took you like one entire year just to replace your salary, right?
Took a little
Or
longer than
something.
that. I didn't hit it. I remember, like, the first year we made, like, 56K, and I was paying the
Right.
team these students, seasonal as contractors. So, like, on a net basis, it's probably, like, another 20K. So I probably made 30K net my first year. So it
Oh.
took
Okay.
me and then after that tax so then we did 2 tax seasons, and then that first year, 2018, we started really cooking. We did, like, outbound, and those were the days where people still opened their emails, like, email wasn't as spammy.
Hmm.
Outbound I learned outbound sales, we brought on Ashton, who's still with the team, in 2018 as our first outbound sales guy, and because he had a quota, he actually was a big step in the right direction because he was looking for, like, the right ICP. I didn't even know what ICP was back then, So, ideal client profile, he said, "It's a business owner, they make this much every year, they're not happy with how much they pay in taxes, and them paying us 10K and saving that 10K is
Right.
gonna be in." is going to be a home run for everybody.
Well, incredible and perfect. So that's as far as the milestone, and as far as when did you now do you have like do you have a specific do you work with a specific niche with a specific type of client? Did you stop saying yes to Uber drivers? What's the niche? What's the niche that you work? Because maybe someone in the future is watching this and say, "Hey, I want to work with this guy Miguel. He sounds super cool." And maybe he's in the same industry. Did you have a specific type of client that you like working with?
Yeah, I mean, back then there were two specific niches that we identified that were great. One was Airbnb hosts, and the other one
Hmm.
was marketers. And the reason they were great, they're different, but they were great for different reasons. One is the availability of data. The clients that we spent the most amount of time on is they don't know where to get their data, they don't know how to work with it. Well, digital marketers are very data savvy. They get paid, in Stripe or invoice in QuickBooks. So the data is all digital. It's all there. I don't need to physically be there. And this is 2017, 2018. The going into your CPA's office was still the norm. It was weird. Again, this is pre-pandemic. It was weird to fully work remotely. So those were two clients that worked really great remotely. The Airbnb, kind of the same thing. We identified them as we call Henrys, high earners, not rich yet. So these are people that are starting to make money. They've made enough money to buy a house. Maybe they're renting out part of their house. Maybe they make enough money to buy a second house. So they're not as sensitive as price, but they're also, I think, intellectually engaged in how do I do what's best for my financial future. And we can do a lot more with someone that's forward focused, thinking about their future, in terms of services, than we can somebody who's like, "Hey, can you just file last year's tax return?" And then on the digital marketer side, I mean, the business is high margin. It's a service business. Again, this is 2017, 2018. So you've got these 22-year-olds. We had some clients that have figured out Facebook marketing that
Right.
are grossing 1 million. They have no idea. They've never paid taxes outside of a W-2. So we ended up picking up a lot of digital marketing startups during that time. So those are the two. Today, we still focus on, we call it marketing tech. A lot of these clients are developing their own proprietary tools, especially true with AI. And we have strategies that help them save a lot in taxes. Most famous one that we work is the R&D tax credit.
Hmm.
That's a really, really successful play for anyone developing anything. So today, if you develop any kind of technology, whether you're a startup or an established business that's adding a customized tool because what's off the shelf doesn't work for you, the R&D tax credit is far and away going to be the best thing you can do to keep capital in the business instead of writing a check to Uncle Sam.
Okay, perfect. Great. That's great to know. Let me just shift. I'm sure that you're familiar with the humans in accounting. You know me. You know, for me, there are parts in life that are more important than others. I can think about sports. Maybe it's one, humor definitely another one, but food is definitely one that I for me it's an important thing in life. I like eating good food, and I've been asking every single guest, the humans in accounting, what's their favorite food, and honestly I don't know yours, so this is me asking you, Miguel, what's your favorite food?
So my like I don't it's hard to pick one, but I would
I
say
know.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one in my top 5, which is a burrito. A good burrito. You can do a breakfast burrito, you can do a full carne asada burrito, just pure protein. Depends on the day, but if I can throw a burrito in there and I could have a burrito every day and change up what's in it.
It's a burrito. This is something that I don't know, and maybe like if you go to Mexico and you ask for a burrito, or Mexicans are gonna laugh because that's something that does not exist, or it does exist and it's the same as the one that we are both imagining. Because I don't know, I have this picture of maybe it's what Americans transformed the Mexican food, but that's not the case, right? It's an actual food in Mexico.
It's an
Do
actual
you know?
food in Mexico. I will say it's not your staple Mexican food. I think the
Right.
origin story is that it was a northern, burrito. You can get them in northern Mexico. And it was my theory. Someone in northern Mexico went to LA, let's say, and they said, "Wow, people really like these, big enchilada tacos with flour tortillas." They're like, "Let's make them even bigger." So I think
Right.
I think it's evolved to what it is in the US, but there was Mexican innovation behind it, and Mexican hands making it. And now, of course, you can get a burrito from, in New Hampshire and Idaho, wherever you go, you can find. But yeah, you can get a burrito in Mexico. It's not as common as, say, like flautas or enchiladas or tacos. But,
Exactly.
it's Mexican in my heart.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm just thinking. Probably you're the first who says. I mean, if we just put together like a category that it's Mexican food from everyone who said tacos. Tacos is probably the answer that I'm giving or that I'm getting from each one that I'm interviewing that says something with a Mexican food. I think definitely Mexican food is in the top three. I'm gonna probably next week or the following one just put their ranking or a top three. Back then, I remember it was I did this like last year. Pizza Incredible was number one. Tacos, and I don't remember this. Maybe pasta. Yeah, I don't know. Well, but so then burritos. I'll just put Miguel with the burritos. Perfect.
Yeah,
I get
my top 3, I would s I definitely would also say Italian food, so that covers the pizza and pasta, and the 3rd one is definitely, like, Japanese food. You can and there's categories within that. So I would say I could live off of those 3 for all my life and be happy.
right, right. I just saw, and I wanted just to ask you again. We're in the World Cup, and you know that for us is it's an important event here for all Argentinians. We just I don't know. It's an important. It's how we live. It's part of our culture. And I know that you were recently, and when I say recently, I don't know, not more than 2 weeks ago, you went to a football to a match, right? To
Yeah,
Argentina with who? Argentina against who?
Austria.
Austria.
You It was amazing.
It was amazing, right? How was the experience? You were surrounded with Argentinians.
Absolutely surrounded. I didn't know that many Argentinians could come to Dallas, but from the ones I talked to, like, so many, like, had flown from, like, Argentina, like, Rosario, Cordoba, like, Argentinians flying to the US without tickets, trying to find them last minute. We had a group of us, they were looking for extra tickets because one of them had ticket. They all got in with the same ticket. I was like, "How in the world?" They're like, "It's the Argentinian way." They're they're absolutely insane about soccer, and it was so special being a part of that and, being adopted. And that, I even got my own song, like, it was great.
Your own son? Well, what do you mean?
Yeah, they were singing, Contador, like, just accountant, like, and I was like,
you, you know what? I don't know. I'm gonna say as well that we're in the top tier. Like here, if you go to a I don't know a bachelor's party or if you do go a party, there's always someone who's gonna be like super creative and make out of a song super cool. So yeah, that's one of the things that apparently we're good at
my
and
gosh, I
we
had
do
no
a lot.
idea. Now I get the ego. I had no idea I could feel that good, you know? I didn't There were, like, 8 guys, like, carrying a cooler of beer, like, shirts off because it was so just, like, singing me my own song. I was like, "I love you guys. I how do I do this every day?"
Right, right, right. Well, it's almost ending again. Now I'm laughing, and maybe next Wednesday Argentina is no longer in the World Cup. But again, this is me supporting it here from Buenos Aires. Let's go back to your business. I wanted just to ask you a few more questions. Now that as far how do you I started actually this podcast because I started it like a year and a half ago. Michael Lee was my first interview, worst interview in the world. Please don't go and check that one out. But again, it was important that we made that one because now we're doing this one, and it's going much better. But I started the idea of humans in accounting because back then, a year and a half ago, we were all talking about AI. Hey, AI is going to replace us. AI every single week there was a new software, there was something new in AI, and now it's even worse or better. I don't know which word to use. I want to ask you, how do you feel the industry and the AI is? If it's changing, are we all gonna stop working? Are we going to use AI in every single thing? What are your thoughts? This is a broad question, but what are your thoughts on AI? How do you see if this is changing the industry? If it's not, I really want to know your thoughts on that.
No, it's a very big topic,
It
and I
is
think I would be yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I said I don't think about it every day.
right,
I think that it's interesting because on the one hand, you have this narrative that's like very dark and dystopian that, you know, AI is going to do everything for us and what is human knowledge for anymore? And I think for those that get involved and test it and try to break it, you understand really quickly that AI is a tool and it does require, you know, structuring, whether we're talking about context and organizing that context by a human, and it needs revision and correction and validation, again, by humans. So, you know, I think I look at it as a tool. I remember too my days at PwC, the partners were talking about how they thought the computer was going to replace all their staff.
right,
They talked about when they like tax provisions, the word spreadsheet comes from a very big sheet that accountants used to build to do the provision, the book to tax accounting. So they told stories about these, you know, 8 by, you know, 8 feet by like 6 feet tall sheets that they would put on the walls to map out all the transactions, the trial balances, the adjusting journal entries. They would all be by hand on the wall, and, you know, you would come out to the final number somewhere in the bottom right. So, if you can imagine that world and the fear around, "Wait a minute, you're gonna
right,
be able to do this on a single computer? What am I gonna do?" You know? I think it's the same thing just happening differently, where ultimately gonna be an accountant using AI that replaces an AI. If anything's true, I think the need for good accountants is even greater. It's just a question of how AI is going to be a tool for the accountant. So I'm very excited about it. I think if we're scared about anything, it's that we become so overwhelmed by how fast it's changing
right,
that we make a suboptimal decision. Either we decide not to do anything or we decide, you know what, this is too confusing. I'm just going to commit to the first marketing email that I get or the first company that comes with to me with an idea. And I'm not comparing different ways of using it. And I'm just going to go with one way and trust. Because I think a lot of these companies don't have it figured out. I think that it's a big opportunity for someone to figure out how to use AI, no matter what they're doing. And that applies to accounting as well.
yeah, of course, of course. Not only in the accounting industry, but in whatever you're doing right now. If it's that you're doing bread or you're selling chairs or you're doing anything else, it's definitely a big opportunity. Miguel, let me just to wrap up the episode. I'm super happy that we made this one, but this is a question that I probably the question that I like the most because it's a question that basically I learned with the answers that each guest is giving me and all the audience. I want to ask you, there are two questions. Like, first, what's a good piece of advice that maybe someone could have given you when you started your firm? And then maybe a separate question with your experience right now. Let's say someone in the future is watching this and Spotify or listening in Spotify or an Apple podcast. and it's considering now in 2026 quitting PwC and starting their own firm because they want just to replace their salary now in 2026. What's a good advice that you can give them now and in July of 2026?
Yeah, I think the answer to both questions would be the same. I mean, I think it's
Okay.
this. I think it's that be patient with the results, and I think determined with your own growth. And what I mean by that is, we want that result, that milestone fast, and we might not get there, as is true in my story. But on the flip side, by being, I think, stubborn and impatient, the work we do every day, we compound our ability in a way that allows us to supersede that goal exponentially. So I think if someone would have told me that, I would have been, I think, more at ease with even right now. Like, I don't exactly know how we're going to figure out, but I need to stay committed to figuring out a little bit each day because that's going to compound and produce a future that's much better than what I have now. So being patient with the long term while being committed to the growth and the testing and figuring things out in the short term is just, I think, a good mindset to allow you to suspend the anxiousness of, but I got to hit my goal, but I got to hit my goal while giving you peace that you're getting there every day.
Thank you so much, Miguel. Last one. I'm sure that yeah, people just want just to reach out to you because you mentioned a few things that I can relate, and they just want to have a conversation like this one, whether just to buy or to be one of your clients, or yeah, work with you, or just to talk. What's a good way they can reach out to you?
LinkedIn is actually
Okay.
great. There's a lot of spam in there, but yeah,
Yeah.
/ Miguel A. Centeno. You gotta add that A because Miguel Centeno is also a famous Princeton professor who's just killed my personal SEO. But you can find me on
Well,
LinkedIn.
is it a professor of what? What is he doing? Do you know?
Sociology and history, like something completely
Yeah.
out there. But yeah, if basically, if it looks like me, it's me. If I look 30 years older, that's probably not.
Right, right, right. Miguel, fue un placer having you here. I'll just make sure when we upload this and Humans in Accounting just to tag you. Muchas gracias for being part of the podcast. And yeah, hope to see you soon in the next event in the future, right?
Yep. And all the luck to Argentina.
Muchas gracias. Abrazo.
Hasta luego.